See, the beauty of cementing quizzes is, especially in the relaxed timing, it takes away that time pressure, and the objective
Hmm.
is very simple. Can you solve this question if given time or not? That's precisely what you're trying to get out of it. And I also understand the psychology behind it. That it's basically the problem solving skill is being tested. So that way, what happens is it sort of reaffirms your belief that is there any conceptual gap at my end, or am I good to go, or is it
Hmm.
because of the time pressure that I'm goofing up and not that I lack any skills?
Hmm.
So for me, the relaxed semantic quiz did that. I was at a level where I was at a certain level, but I
Yeah.
realized that from here I need that professional expertise. So that was the reason I signed up for LMP. And of course, I mean, e-GMAT typically has a very set process of doing things, right? So that's the beauty of signing up with more kind of a professional advice. Because if I were to figure out and iron out everything, it would have
Hmm.
taken a lot more longer
Hmm.
than it currently has. So
Yeah.
that's where the LMP program helped me a lot.
Everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another debrief session with e-GMAT. Today we have with us Abhinav, who scored a 695 on his recent attempt. So welcome, Abhinav, and a huge congratulations on the score.
Thank you so much, Abha.
Yeah, so I think, Abhinav, it's been a roller coaster ride for us. You have had your own shares of ups and downs. So when you look back at your journey, what do you see as your biggest hurdle or challenge at a sectional level? And how did you go about starting from there?
Well, I think firstly I was struggling with verbal significantly,
Hmm.
and like there were instances when I was running out of time, and I realized that there are so many questions left, and probably I was not doing it the right way, or did not have the right process to each question type, particularly your CR and RC.
Hmm.
And then like the approach that you suggested about taking the cementing quiz, so that we identify. I think first you were trying to gauge whether this guy knows how to solve problems, and then the second aspect is whether you can timely solve it or not. So
Right.
I realized that like the process, there were process gaps in the way I was approaching them.
Hmm.
Like I think pre-thinking is one aspect that you vouch for a lot, and it's
Yeah.
something I was doing probably a minor capacity, not in a very significant proportion.
Hmm.
So when I sort of tweak that process, stick to that process, I realized that at least the problem-solving skills got better. And
Right.
later, I realized I need to have a sectional strategy in place.
Right.
Like there has to be those checkpoints that you're constantly checking so that you're still in the game. Because I remember, if you remember, there were sectionals where I spent 18 minutes on the first six questions and I was out of the race.
Right.
And and then I realized, okay, let's have a pacing strategy also so that I can timely complete the exam.
Right.
So I think verbal was the biggest challenge for me.
Verbal was the biggest challenge, right? Now, you mentioned that to a certain extent, your process was in line with pre-thinking, but there was a bit of tweaking that came into picture. Right? So why don't you elaborate on how did you used to solve a usual question of CR, and how did things change after the doing the course or the portions?
So initially, I realized that there is a time crunch. So
Mm-hmm.
if I go and do R&D on each and every question, the probability is that I was not able to complete the set. And then particularly in CR, I was continuously getting to the situation where out of five, I've ruled out three, and between those two, I'm stuck. I'll take the time till eternity and still not get the right answer many a times. So that's something I was doing. That is where the gap was. So I was not engaging too much with the questions, to be honest. I was just quickly running my eyes through it.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that the easier questions you will be able to with such a technique.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when the difficulty level goes up, then this technique falls flat,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the problem is the time that you have saved so far by doing this gimmick,
Yeah.
that one or two questions will take away all that advantage away from you. Because
Mm-hmm.
one is you read something and you get a sense that I don't have any clue. Then that is the easy scenario. You can still skip the question. Second is you have some bit of an idea, but you don't have an absolute clarity. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll try to do the iterations again and again. You'll reread it again and again.
Right.
And then when you start reading the five options, it will take you to another planet. Now
Mm-hmm.
you have so many ideas in your head. You lack clarity of what is the conclusion and what is the premise.
Right.
And that question itself will take good 4 minutes or something and will dilute all the advantage that you would have procured so far. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the approach change was when I consciously set a process in place that, okay, I'll go slow. I'll read the argument.
Mm-hmm.
I'll read the stem, what needs to be done. Then I will do the pre-thinking a little bit that what could be a potential, let's say we're trying to strengthen. So that, see, that pre-thinking is basically a verification tick mark that you have understood the argument. You know what is the conclusion and what is the premise.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes easier to look at and evaluate those five options.
Right. Right. And what about RC, Abhinav? Was there a change there as well? How did you go about approaching your RC?
So I think in the initial phase, we both know I experimented a lot with the RC. Initially, I was trying to like look at the question and trying to quickly run through the passage and all.
Mm-hmm.
That was one approach. Second approach was, okay, let's just take as much time as the reading takes, and then
Yeah.
the subsequent take questions should take less time. I tried that, but I realized that sometimes I spend too much time on the reading itself. Then I need additional time to go through questions also,
Hmm.
and effectively this is taking more time. So then I think I went back to my initial strategy, but then this time the approach was slightly different. I was not just going through to understand the context. I was just trying to understand the structure and why, like
Right.
why each word, why each line, why each paragraph, what is the motivation of the author, why, or what is he trying to do. So when you start thinking or reading functionally rather
Right.
than getting into the details, you understand the backstory of what the other person is trying to achieve here, right?
Mhm.
That was one perspective or strategic like position change from which I was reading. That was one. And the second aspect was, yes, I used to look at the question. So when I'm going through the first go, if I come across that area, okay, this question corresponds to this, so I'll pause there, I'll do my R&D, and I'll solve the and then continue reading further. So
Right.
that was my RC approach.
Right. Now, talking about the second, because I know this was a very challenging part for you, especially to manage your time in the verbal sectionals, right? So, but at the end of the day, you did strategize on how much time you would be giving per question, how you would be navigating through so that you could complete the test within those 45 minutes. So, why don't you give us a little bit insights on what were the challenges that you faced in the initial starting when you started off with the sectionals, and how did you go about overcoming them?
So the thing is, if there were 90 minutes for verbal, then I feel verbal would feel very different. It's
Hmm.
basically first part is to develop the problem solving skill, and then second part is to manage that timely. Now the thing is, one, you need that strong belief in your skill set that okay,
Hmm.
I have the skill set, because wherever you get into situations where you're stuck between two options, you need that clarity of the content and belief in your skill. If you don't have that, you be stuck in a dilemma. And I've observed the more confidently I've approached such situations of picking one out of the two, the
Hmm.
better has been the outcome.
Hmm.
So that was it. And I think in the timing, so thing is, I'm somebody who used to feel the nerves a little bit, some bit of panic also setting in, right? Sometimes you blank out also, like you're reading, but the words are not really making sense.
Hmm.
So I think to address that, the most important aspect was to have that pacing strategy. Like
Hmm.
I decided first six questions, I'm going to spend 13 minutes. Next six, I'll spend 11, and then for the last five questions, 10 minutes. So
Hmm.
when you work with this mindset, the thing is, if you're running ahead of time, then you can strategically slow down and invest more time. If you think you have consumed a lot of time, you're running behind, then you need to speed up. That way,
Hmm.
what happens is you're always in sort of control throughout the section and not get to 15th question and now you're realizing that, oh, I'm running out of time.
Right. Right. Now, you mentioned a very important part of your journey, that is test anxiety and mindset. And that is something that we have worked along the way. And it was a bit of a struggle. It was not very smooth. And this is a challenge that a lot of students overcome. So when you talk about, test anxiety, so was there something that you would do to make sure that you are at a calmer mindset before taking the sectionals or the mocks or any quiz?
Yeah, so I try to have the best of the environment, but
Hmm.
we all live in Indian households, so many a times that might not be possible also. So there are two ways of thinking. One is you try to get the best possible environment. Second is to think this way that even on the test day, you might not be lucky. Somebody might be chirping here and there. Something might be happening. So you need to have that level of, I don't know, self-control. I feel outcome that puts the pressure on you. If you
Hmm.
let go of the outcome, if you let go of that number that is in your head that you're trying to achieve,
Yeah.
it will make your life easy. If you can just stick to the process somehow, that okay, this question is there in front of me, let me just focus it. I have to somehow get to question number 7 because my first checkpoint is at question 7. You get to
Hmm.
question 7, then the only thing working in your head should be that I need to get to question 13 somehow. Then you
Right.
get to question 19 and you get to, if you think this way and you don't allow any other thought to come in,
Yeah.
you're more likely to do well. And second is having that intent of understanding, like
Hmm.
reading with skepticism is what I call it. Like
Hmm.
don't just blindly read. If there is a line, there's a purpose behind it. So
Hmm.
think what is that purpose? Why? So that constant why has to be there. If you're like if it comes naturally to you, so I've seen some people are naturally good at it. For some people, it takes that conscious. So I
Effort.
was
Yeah.
one of the. I need to consciously ask the why at every stage.
Yeah. Right, right. Very well said, that you have to be present. And I think that changes a lot of things because on the test date also, there might be some external factors and we cannot, while we can control a lot of things, some things are just out of our control, right? Now, moving to your cons, while you've got a great score, it's a perfect score, a Q90 at this point, but, and you have been consistently scoring a Q90 in your sectionals too, but there were times that the score wasn't there. There were times when it was maybe a Q85 and 86 as well at times. And so what were the kind kind of errors or pattern of mistakes that you could actually weave out from there? What were you doing differently than you would do when you were getting a Q90?
So the approach one was try to do questions as quickly as you can, get to the
Mm,
end,
mm,
create a good bank of time, and then go back to them. That is approach one. And many a times you are in that state of mind that, quickly everything is working out for you. Perhaps one or two questions here and there that might be throwing you off, but more often than not, everything is happening. But then I realized initially it was working, I was getting very good score. But
mm,
then this psyche of creating that bank of time towards the end started giving me that performance anxiety and putting more pressure on me to solve those questions quickly.
mm,
So then I remember when like few days close to the exam, you would know my like when we have finally sorted out verbal
mm.
and DI, the quant sectional, I don't know, dropped out of nowhere. And I
Yeah.
was telling you that I'm feeling a slight burnout. So if I could just take a few days, just relax myself. I know quant, I have that typical engineering natural ability that uh, if I just let go of any kind of stress in the head, and
Mm,
if I just quietly and relax in a relaxed way, I attempt it, I can do it. So the approach that I actually finally followed on the exam was this only, that patiently I'll go through, read through every question,
right.
systematically solve it,
Mm-hmm,
be engaged with it, and not try to create a time bank towards the end. So
mm-hmm,
and I was stuck on probably two questions, to be honest.
mm-hmm,
Um, and then even then I was quite calm that it's not like I don't know how to do, but this requires a little bit of R&D. It's
mm,
towards the end. So I
right.
got to the end. I had, I don't know, 5, 6 minutes or something like that left.
Mm-hmm,
And then I spent the remainder of the time on two questions. So earlier, what I was doing was with the remainder of the time, I was trying to reinvent the wheel all over again, starting to do all questions again.
mm,
And then I remember we had that call where you were like, Abhinav, the questions that you have just marked, only focus on those. Why are you trying to solve it again? Why are you trying to experiment now this close to the test?
yeah, yeah.
And I was like, okay, I have this constant knack of trying out different things and testing key. Okay, this is working out. So
Mm,
I think the end thing was this only, that I just kept myself relaxed, let
mm,
go of the idea of creating that time cushion. Patiently attempted all the questions, and fortunately I was stuck on only one or two.
mm-hmm,
Uh, Came back, spent on it. On the second question, I was still in a dilemma that I'm not very convinced here. Like I have
mm,
one logic to support it, but one logic saying that there could be an alternate possibility.
mm.
And once the section got ended, it was still on my mind. So that was one of the reason I took the break. So that I was like, "Ab ho gaya kaun? There's no point thinking about it. It won't help."
Right. Right. So what would be the key skills that someone really needs to cross that Q87, and achieve that Q88, Q90 score, Abhinav?
The first is problem solving. Like it has
Mm,
to be very clear in your head, especially problem. So what is, it's not like the questions are super difficult, but the
mm,
thing is when the nerves come in play, we stop thinking rationally and we try to get into a shell and then we start solving it conventionally.
mm,
Problem is if you try to solve all the questions conventionally, you would find it very difficult to complete the test on time,
yeah.
unless you're like clicking everything within the first attempt itself. You read a question,
Mm,
you have the conventional approach in place, and you're able to do it, then it's fine. But
mm-hmm,
if anywhere you get stuck
mm,
with that conventional approach, you will goof up a lot. And quant is quite brutal. One or two mistakes here and there, you can get to Q85
yeah.
also. You might take pride that okay, I've got 18 on 21 right, but those three
Mm.
questions will get to Q85. That's the brutality of this section.
Right. Right. Now, while you were doing a lot of practice across the sections, be it verbal, quant, and DI, we solved a lot of cementing quizzes where we doing a set of relaxed timing and standard timing so that the processes really drill down in your mind, right? So when you do such kind of focused practice, how did that help, contribute in your prep? What kind of things you developed by doing those kind of cementing quizzes?
See, the beauty of cementing quizzes is, especially in the relaxed timing, it takes away that time pressure, and the objective
Mm,
is very simple. Can you solve this question if given time or not? That's
mm,
that's precisely what you're trying to get out of it. And I also understand the psychology behind it. That it's basically the problem solving skill is being tested. So that way, what happens is it sort of reaffirms your belief that is there any conceptual gap at my end, or am I good to go, or is it
mm,
because of the time pressure that I'm goofing up and not that I lack any skills?
mm,
So for me, the relaxed semantic quiz did that. And then standard, when you do in standard timing, so then you try to do that. Of course, slightly the quant sectionals of e-GMAT were on the slightly trickier side
mm,
compared to the actual ones.
mhm,
But it's like if you push yourself during that, then you will be at least somewhat at a decent level in the actual one. If
mm,
you're not pushing yourself also, and if you're walking in an easy thing, trust me, on the test day, it's not like the paper is going to be very difficult, but it's like there will be a lot of things that will
mm.
put you at unease also,
Right.
which might inhibit a little bit of your ability. So if you can get 100%, maybe on the test day you might be able to extract 98 out of it. So
Right, right. Now, talking about your DI, once you were done with your verbal and quants, the last section we tackled was DI before your mocks and test readiness. So, in your DI, which subsection created the maximum problem for you? And because I know the answer, but I want you to say it which section created the maximum problem for you, and how did you work around it? What was your strategy?
Initially, the strategy was to skip MSR
Hmm.
and make sure that again create a bank of time that I'll spend on the remainder of the questions. So that was the strategy. The problem was twofold. One, if you get three back-to-back questions wrong upfront within, let's say, first 5, 7 questions,
Hmm.
then even if you get other questions right, I remember
Hmm.
I got 4 questions wrong and I still got a DI 82, and I wrote that huge mail stating that I've been heavily penalized for it.
Hmm.
And I just realized that getting these many questions wrong upfront consecutive, it's there's a heavy penalty for that. And then in the mock phase, I realized there were mock tests with two MSRs. So
Hmm.
I was like, I don't think this is really the best way to go around. I know you were vouching for that. It's not the best way to go about it, and I was persistent that okay, let me stick to it. But then I lately realized that okay, I think I'm blowing MSR out of proportion
Hmm.
because it's something that I do unconsciously. Like if you are planning a trip or vacation to some place, you will do those kind of things. You will see which
Yeah.
plane will cost you less, which hotel will cost you less. You will try to make those combinations so that the overall vacation cost is less. So it's basically a very daily life thing that is there in front of you.
Hmm.
It's just that uh, in the test, you need to have the composure to process that in the right way,
Right.
and to have that again timing strategy throughout the section so
Hmm.
that you don't end up spending all your time in one go. So
Right.
initially I was getting away from MSR, but then later I realized that okay, that's not the right way. Then I started solving for MSR, but I think my weakest point was TPA verbal particularly.
Hmm.
I don't know. I because see in MSR you still have an incentive. There are 3 questions. If you crack it, you get 3 questions, right?
Hmm.
Probability for that. TP is one such question type where the time investment is large and you will
Hmm.
still get 1 question. So there were times I was very strategically skipping those TP
Yeah.
verbal at times. In fact, in the latest one attempt also I did like I had skipped question 19 TP on purpose because investing 3.5, 4 minutes just to get that one, it doesn't really make sense. So again, in DI, I have had all sorts of problem, particularly with TPA and MSR only. And
Hmm.
then certain places I was goofing on graph
Hmm.
also. So the
Hmm.
only thing that was actually somewhat working was like data sufficiency and the table.
Hmm.
Those were the two things that was sort of working for me. Everything else was sort of faltering, and
Hmm.
largely because of the time pressure. Let's be honest, DI looks less number of questions, but when you do it, it's not basically actually one question. Within that one question, there are three sub questions.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that also happening. And the way change came was let go of that mindset that we are skipping MSR. No, we are doing MSR. I
Hmm.
remember before the test, I was telling you I'm even prepared for two MSRs also.
Hmm.
So that's the mindset I was in then. And then I had my pacing strategy that okay, first 5 questions, I should have 33 minutes left, then
Hmm.
22, then 11. So I was working in
Hmm.
the multiples of 11 like that.
Hmm.
And that's how I approached on the D-Day. Of course, I was not able to execute it the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
I reached a point I was like, okay, I'm sort of now not having the kind of time I would have liked. But
Hmm.
I don't know, I sort of had a belief also that my quantum verbal well. So I was like, let me just
Hmm.
get to the end. I might be able to do decent. So that was
Right.
it.
Right, right. Now, talking about your attempts, Abhinav, like before the 695, you had taken one more attempt where you got a 645. And if we look into the scores, I have it here, it was a Q85, B82, and a D89. So considerably, there has been an improvement across the sections, right? But when we talk about the preparation wise, even before the 645, your stats and everything showed that you were there. You were ready, but things didn't translate into the actual test. So what I wanted to ask you is what really happened? And then what kind of steps that you took, like between the 645 and 695 attempt?
Yeah, so I mean, I look at GMAT at large in a way. It's like an inception. You
Hmm.
need to have a question strategy, then you need to have a sectional strategy, then you need to have an exam strategy, and then is the test center strategy. So it's
Right.
it's like it works like this. So in my 645 attempt, you would know I went with quant DI and then verbal.
Hmm.
And this time we changed that order also, quant, verbal, and DI, because I was constantly telling you that after spending good 100 minutes or something, I'm feeling a bit of fatigue coming
Okay.
in. So
Right.
regardless of whichever section we are going to put in the third slot,
Hmm.
I'm not at the best of my abilities that I can. And
Yeah.
we realized that there is more upside to verbal than DI, and that's why
Hmm.
we pivoted and shifted that order. So I think major change was that. Of course, having said that, the way we were approaching DI, skipping MSR, of course, that's a little cowardly way of approaching it. So that we addressed. So
Hmm.
basically, I think how it changed was before the first attempt, we addressed verbal. Like verbal means verbal very,
Yeah.
very thoroughly. before the second attempt, we addressed TI.
Hmm.
So now when you go in the exam, the mindset also was very different, right?
Hmm.
My score was anyway in a certain corridor, but there
Yeah.
was a good amount of volatility in that,
Hmm.
right? So it was
Yeah.
more about how do you execute that. So before the final attempt, see, I had the question type strategy. This question type comes, I will follow this kind of a process. I
Right.
had a sectional strategy in place that these many questions, this much time, these many questions, this much time. I had an exam strategy in place that, okay, I will go for this section, will take my break, go for verbal, then DI. And then the test center strategy also in the sense that, so I think I was telling you just now that I feel a little jittery and nervy when I
Yeah.
get to the test center. And I need that little bit of time to just relax a little bit. Of course, you can't take a lot of time. So you can take a few minutes, but more than that, it's that. So I think in my previous attempt, I also mentioned like the kind of markers that I got,
Hmm.
I was using within on the first question itself, the markers was not really functioning very well. So
Hmm.
those kind of course, these are small things, but it really throws you off because there's a bit of nerves already in there, and
Right.
you don't want any other outside element to disturb that. So
Hmm.
this time, telling you, I was vocal about it to the test center folks, and they were really nice. They were very understanding of this, and they
Mm-hmm.
made sure they gave me the best environment to work with. So again, the entire thing was in the previous attempt, I was going on the back of good mock attempts. In
Hmm.
this attempt, I was like, okay, I have the question strategy, I have the sectional strategy, I have the exam strategy, I have the. So I tried to plan it to the minute possible.
Yeah, right. It worked out. It worked out well for you, right? Now, talking about the mock quiz, Abhinav, so you have taken a couple of mocks, like max mocks as well as official mocks, right? So when you talk about the mock, firstly, how close was the algorithm that you were practicing on to the actual test? And also, was there something that you would make sure that these are the things that I have to be very focused, especially for taking full length mocks, like something you would keep a note to yourself or make sure you remind yourself before the test?
So I think I've taken the e-GMAT mocks, and they were like I think in terms of the environment, how you would feel on the actual one, they were quite replicative of that.
Hmm.
So the same kind of nervousness that I felt there, I was
Mm-hmm.
actually experiencing on the actual one. In terms of the questions, also, I think it's pretty similar, a touch bit trickier, you can say,
Mm-hmm.
but pretty much on the same lines.
Yeah.
So there was that on the official mocks. I think that was a good practice, to be honest, at least from algorithm standpoint.
Hmm.
The algorithm is very similar to how it works on the actual one. So I think while writing the official mocks, I realized that okay, the skipping MSR is a very bad strategy because I'm getting heavily penalized.
Hmm.
And that in fact quant also there was one of this mock. I got one question wrong and I still got a Q86. And I
Hmm.
came to you crying about it that this is not fair and stuff. That's also you realized the brutality also.
Right.
So that gave me a very good flavor of how the um, algorithm works. And then answering what is it that I wanted to tell myself. See, thing is, you have planned everything in your head.
Hmm.
The thing is that execution. Between that execution, there would be a lot of nerves, emotions coming in. So if you can keep that out,
Hmm.
uh, there's nothing like it. So like I walked in the paper and I was like, okay, I've made a strategy. I'm going to stick to it no matter what.
Hmm.
Uh, right. And under no circumstances I'm going to like deviate or change this.
Hmm.
So I'm going to stick to it. For quant, I was reading every question very, very calmly. I just had an eye on the clock to see that first seven questions 15 minutes, next seven 15, last seven 15. I will just stick to this. I will not try to create any time bank or something.
Hmm.
So I was very consciously with focus reading that. I was of course lucky enough that there was nobody on the center, so I have nothing to get distracted. That was the thing.
Right.
But I think you create a strategy and then you go with the conviction that yes, I can execute it and I will stick to it, stand by it no matter what. So
Right.
that was that.
Yes. Yes. Now, looking back, like obviously when you were done with the mocks, the first attempt, we had a discussion, and like you said, there was not much change that we did when we talk about verbal and quants because you were almost there. It was DI that we started strategizing better, where we were thinking that we would completely skip MSR. This time, you also made up your mind that I'm going to give it a shot, right? And you saw that you were still able to manage your time well and get to the end also, right? Now, when you say about your mocks phase or your test readiness, I remember that by nature mocks were something that really made a problem for you when we talk about psychologically as well. And you used to make sure that you used to you used to take some time. You never used to rush to a mock. I clearly remember that sometimes we would plan that okay, Abhinav, we're going to take the mock tomorrow, and you would write to me saying that hey Abha, I could not take the mock and I'm just going to take this day to myself and I'm going to prep this out, right? The only reason I'm bringing this up is that a lot of people have this similar kind of behavioral issue, right? But I really saw that when you took yourself the time and maybe give yourself the pep talk also that you did, things did translate, right? So what was that whole scene about? How did you go about, making sure that when you're taking the mocks, you're completely prepared and you were in the right mind space then?
The thing is, the GMAT mock also is a good 135, 145 minute kind of an exercise.
Hmm.
And this is a highly energy intensive activity. So like when you write one, you can feel that you're drained out and you don't want to look at anything for at least today. You'll look
Yeah.
at it tomorrow only. So that's one reason uh, that sort of hinders you. I mean, the brain would naturally try to resist it or run away because right? Because it's a very, what do I say, energy intensive activity, a lot of calorie burn. So the brain always follows a path of cognitive path of less resistance, right?
Hmm.
Which is to say that okay, let's just procrastinate this and do it later. So the pep talk here helps is like you keep yourself at calm. See, the strategies and everything all comes a lot later, right? But
Hmm.
when you are in the initial phase, then it's more like you're writing it out and testing the waters and seeing
Yeah.
what is not working out, right?
Hmm.
So there are two things. One is the nerves that you feel. Sometimes you can go blank also. Um, and second is you have to infuse that confidence in yourself. One thing is that belief that I have had that, okay, this exam is not something that I can't do. But I was
Hmm.
very clear in my head that this will take a good amount of effort to get to
Hmm.
that level. It will not just happen immediately. So you have to keep telling yourself that I might goof up in the short run, but I will do well in the long run.
Hmm.
And you have to reinforce that because the motivation is not a straight linear line. It's a little cyclical. It goes down, it comes up, it again goes down. That
Right.
pep talk was just to put you back on track, that you've done the hard yards. Just believe in yourself, take that push.
Hmm.
And see, thing is, it's not the prep alone. We have a professional life, we have a personal life,
Yeah.
and that also tires and drains. Those are also energy intensive activities. So if you plan to do all the hard work of office on the same day you're trying to write the exam, trust me, you might be willing to do that, your brain will not comply with that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's I mean, I have to say this, that the prep is also complemented with two other things, with your professional life and your personal life. If
Hmm.
all three, and all these three will go in sync.
Yeah.
If one of the element is not doing well, you will see the effect on the other two also.
Right.
So
Right. And I
yeah.
think that is something that we observed in your case as well, because there was a lot going on in person front as well as, the office front, but it's good that we could still navigate it through and get it done with. Right? When you talk about, because we were talking about the sections, we spoke about test strategies, mind space that you should be in. Now, I wanted to know more about error analysis because, that is an important part for improvement. It's not just about solving a lot of questions. It's also about strategically reviewing and, identifying the pattern of mistakes. So how would you go about your error analysis in the sections? And, if you could give us an example of something that you noticed while doing the error analysis and then put a conscious effort to change it?
So for me, one thing was I would say, the ability to reflect and memorize. So I had this very good ability. If I'm going through a section, I know what I'm doing wrong, right?
Mhm.
And even after living, like looking at the errors, also I have the good ability to sort of recognize and memorize that okay, this kind of error I do, right?
Right.
The problem that I used to face was that for a good amount of time I will do that good, right?
Mm.
While I'm working on something else, then I'll fix that something else, and then I'll realize that okay, the first thing that I was doing right already, that is, I don't know, for some reason is going down. So like data sufficiency, I was doing very good,
Mm.
and then towards the end, we were seeing that the data sufficiency accuracy has dropped.
Mm.
And again, the thing that you have to do is you have to go through why is it that you are going wrong in that. And
Right.
you have to retell yourself that this is what you were doing right in the first place. You just need to redo that again. I think along the way you've forgotten, or maybe it just you have to just go
Yeah.
back to the old ways.
Yeah.
So in terms of error recognition, see, there are three phases. One is when you are fundamentally developing the skill set, when you're
Mm-hmm.
learning everything for the first time. Second is when you're in the transition phase of, okay, I've learned everything, let's try the mock. And third is when you're very close to the exam, when you're in the final mock leg, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at it, and I look at it pretty much like a test match. Like the
Mm.
first session, you respect the conditions. Second session, you will be little bit of comfortable, and it's the final session where the runs will come. So you have to stay patient till the end,
Yeah.
right? That's how it generally flows out. So on the error parts, see, initially I made a lot of errors.
Mm.
Like quant, you will miss out on the constraints.
Mm.
Uh, in the rush, you will not see that the sum was supposed to be of the odd integers,
Mm.
right? Those kind of things. But thing is, once you have seen that out, then you know, okay, these are the kind of traps I need to
Yeah.
be cognizant that this is what they generally do in such things.
Mm.
And there is that. Then so odd even thing is one thing. Then you would realize that modulus questions, you would get the values of x. If you simply take a sum, or if you seriously say that okay, four values will qualify, you will get it wrong, because after getting the values of x, please check whether that values is consistent with the equation or not. So
Mm-hmm.
those kind of small things were there, especially in quant. I think I was able, once I was able to see it out in the first place, I was very sorted.
Mm.
In verbal, similarly, if there's something like this is a good thing to do, and the option will be like this has been done.
Mm-hmm.
So that can capability saying that it has happened, those kind of wordplay. So just like Quant will do wordplays on odd, even those kind of tricks, verbal you will have like they will just try to distort it slightly that you're not able to notice or get away with it. Those
Mm-hmm.
kind of things. On the DI, it's a different ball game. It's a different ball game because there's so much of information bombarded at you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have a sense of familiarity first with the types, that will throw you away. And then so it's like in DI you won't experience mischievous kind of traps, except data sufficiency. Data sufficiency, you will again see that there's a particular option, second option will be able to do it. You'll feel like that both the options you need it, but no, you just need one option. So data sufficiency you have to attend with utmost level of skepticism. Read one option, try very hard, assume you don't have a second option, you have to solve with that first option only. Think like that. And then when you're satisfied, okay, I can't solve like this, then you go to second.
Yeah.
Um, think with the same mindset that I only have this sentence. When you're completely sure nothing of it works, then you put them together and now you see. Thing is, there is time pressure of the exam, so you tend to not deep dive too much into it and do little at the surface level. The problem is the moment you start doing that, that is when you get caught.
Yep. Mm.
So I told you that my data sufficiency was going well, but
Yeah.
towards the end it dropped a little bit because I was not doing the same in-depth analysis that I was doing. So sometimes
Mm.
you also get confident about your abilities on a particular type. So you're like, okay, I've done it well. I don't have to do that much of an R&D.
Yeah.
And then you will see you go back to the same. You'll make mistakes. So you tell yourself, okay, let's be humble. Let's do follow the same process, get the same result. So that's how I mean I have solved the error related things. The only good thing was that I have a very good memory, so
Mm.
I could sort of remember what I make mistakes. So I don't have to make a lot of what do you say error notes or something a lot.
Mm-hmm. But it's good. It's interesting that you pointed out a lot of essential, thoughts that regarding the error log analysis, especially asking the why. That is very, very crucial. And also, secondly, just assess your own performance, right? Like if you could do it previously, that means you have honed the skills, you know the concepts, you know the process. But if something has changed now, it's not necessarily that those skills have disappeared. It might be that you are doing something different than what you were previously doing. Right. Now, moving forward, Abhinav, you were part of the Last Mile Push program and we worked together in this journey. So, what kind of contribution does having a support system like this have on one's journey?
The LMP program was one of the major reasons I signed up for e-GMAT because
Mm,
I think that's a very unique offering that e-GMAT offers.
mm,
I have seen hundreds of video like these in
mm,
the past, so that's how I got to know about okay, e-GMAT offers something like an LMP. And I was at a level where I was at a certain level, but I
yeah.
realized that from here I need that professional expertise, somebody from the outside because I'm too to the picture. So I
Mm,
want somebody who stands outside and away and tells, okay, you can do this differently or you're doing this wrong. So that was the reason I signed up for LMP. And of course, I mean, e-GMAT typically has a very, very set process of doing things, right? So that's the beauty of signing up with more kind of a professional advice. Because if I were to figure out and iron out everything, it would have
mm,
taken a lot more longer
mm,
than it currently has. So
yeah.
that's where the LMP program helped me a lot. And then uh, it's also like sometimes you can't see what you're doing wrong, but somebody else would be able to better see what you are doing wrong. It's because, of
Mm,
course, you bring that wealth of experience of having seen so many test takers. So you know there are certain archetypes of errors
mm,
that most people do. So I
mm,
think that was the reason I came to you. And to the extent that we have strategized uh, before the attempt, I never thought of it.
mm,
I never thought of it. I never thought of it that I'll walk in the exam with this level of strategy, that I'll do question like this, section like this, and all that stuff. So I mean, thanks to you on that. Um,
mm.
and then it has been quite a long time. So being patient with me, having doing all that brainstorming, because you're always also in a dilemma that sometimes you have an opinion, the other person might have a different
Yes,
opinion.
yes.
How do you navigate through such situations?
Yes,
So
yes. I remember like our calls were more about discussions. It was about, okay, we will figure it out somehow. So we both sitting, okay, this has happened. Now what, why it has happened? First we try to figure it out and then we chart out the next steps forward. But the interesting part was, I think, you would also do your homework. So before you would come on the calls, you were one of those students who would do the thorough analysis and come and you will have your insights. Abha, this is why I think it's gone wrong. Let's try to figure it out. So that was good. That was really, I think, a very interesting part to work with you. Now, coming to my last question, Abhinav. So, now that we are on the other side of the journey, we have a score in hand. So, what would be the key learnings or takeaways that you would like to share with the other GMAT aspirants?
I think the most important one is to look at GMAT like a test match only. The first session, you have to be respectful of the conditions. If you have not seen this, this is going to feel a lot overwhelming, and you will feel those nerves. It might not really work out that much, but you respect the conditions. Second session, you will feel a bit comfortable. You will see some scores coming in some section and some aspects. The third session, that's where the runs will come. But to get to that level, you need to go through the first two sessions, and that requires a lot of heart. That's one. Different people have different support systems to help them get through this journey. I have a very close friend, so I was constantly bugging him throughout this journey that this is what I'm going through, and he was very very supportive and guiding me that hey, you got it, you just need to hang in there. And he used to sit with me. We had like good hour long calls, and he will strategize with me that okay, you can do this, you do this. Because the typical mentality is I need a good collection of opinions, then I will sit through it and I'll triangulate what is going to work. So that ideation you need, that so he was really sweet and helpful throughout that. So there's that. I think on the preparation particularly, of course, to say one can do on oneself, that's a little tricky because it's not like you're doing preparation in isolation. You have your office work also, you have your family also. Both of them can be demanding. I think I'm a living testimony to that. So, so I think those are the things. But if you are sincere, if you have the belief, if you can persevere it, if you just don't throw in the towel, of course you'll have bad days. But if you could just somehow keep yourself going, have the support system, some friend, family, whoever you can sort of just go and vent it out. have have somebody like you in my case, somebody who's practically assessing your performance, not emotionally getting into it. If there is volatility, if we have done verbal exceedingly well and in next section I goofed up in verbal, so I think you had that kindness and patience to say that it's okay, it happened, let's see what went wrong and how can we get back. So somebody needs to have that kind of patience with you. And that's where I saw the beauty of LMP. I think overall e-GMAT has a very what do you say, a very data driven, a very mathematical approach. It's something that aligns with my personal philosophy because I am also somebody who want a very very data and structure kind of a thing to operate. I don't like to sit in ambiguity. I will try to make it as mathematical as it can be. And the best feature is that I think the sectional or the mock test don't have the feature to pause. So many a times if you have an option to pause, it gets so overwhelming that you want to hit the pause button and take a breather.
Yeah.
But in the actual exam, you won't get a facility like that. So that's the beauty of the e-GMAT thing, that you won't get a like option to pause. If you're signed up for it, now you're in the roller coaster. Now you get through it.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed the platform, the experience of working with LMP. And I mean, I've been an active follower outside the e-GMAT ecosystem, also on LinkedIn, on YouTube. I've gone through such, I don't know, more than 200 such videos. And okay, and I always used to feel like, okay, I'm not the only one. Other people are also going through the same. So, I mean, I have had a great, lovely experience working with you.
Yeah, and it's been equally, same here, Abhinav. I think it's been a good journey, and we are really happy that we could be part of this journey and help you get to that score. And I'm so glad because the way that you summarize the things, I think you have picked up on something really important that, while you can practice ability and everything, but you need that strong support system when you are in a journey like this, be it a mentor or, be it someone from your family who just, keeps supporting and says and puts the trust in you and tells you that, you got this, buddy, right? I think that really summarizes it really well. So on that note, Abhinav, I think we'll wrap up today's session, and a huge congratulations again and all the best for your application. Stay in touch.
Thank you so much, Ava.